We need to have a talk.
So serious. We have been camping in the back of our SUV for the past 3 years, and we have made some mistakes along the way. So we're gonna fill you in on some of the things that we did wrong so that hopefully you can avoid these mistakes that we have made.
I mean, I don't know about you, Phil. I never make mistakes.
We're gonna fill you in on some mistakes that I have made and that Devin has had to correct.
We're Dev and Phil from Creatives en Route, and we built out the back of our Toyota RAV4 as an SUV camper to help make travel more affordable. Join us as we set out on the road and catch a few flights along the way in search of the best food, vistas, and laughter that this world has to offer.
First things first, the weather. When we set out to travel full-time last year, our first morning on the road, we woke up to bright yellow skies, and I knew that that was immediately a bad sign. Like, if you're from a place like where we're from in Kentucky, you know that that looks like a tornado is headed your way. And sure enough, pull up my weather app, check it. It is a tornado watch. We could not believe it because we felt like we checked the weather a few days ago. Surely it couldn't have changed, right? That never happens here. We decided to make a new plan for the day and get out of Dodge because we didn't want to be caught anywhere where there was a tornado warning, which we could tell was coming our way. We looked at the weather map and decided to head down into New Orleans. The only problem is New Orleans is basically already below sea level. Fact check me on that.
I think that's right.
Surely that's right. And so we knew that if there was a ton of rain coming our way, that New Orleans was definitely going to flood.
And it did.
It did. We picked a parking garage in town, parked on the 3rd or 4th level of the parking garage, and waited the floods out while all of the streets around us were covered in tons of water that we had to wade through to get back from lunch. So all that to say, don't be like us. Make sure you keep tabs on the weather, especially if you're somewhere that is prone to severe weather, like anywhere in Tornado Alley, which is apparently shifting toward Kentucky at this point. Make sure that you know the types of severe weather that are coming into the area that you're traveling in so that you don't get caught in a really potentially dangerous situation.
It also really impacts what you take with you. We've definitely gone places that we were not prepared for how cold it was going to be or how hot it was going to be. And if you're not checking and preparing ahead of time, you might accidentally pack way more than what you need to because you didn't look at the weather ahead of time.
Or not pack enough.
Or not pack enough. Or forget things.
Forget things.
Yeah.
Speaking of, number 2.
Make a list of things that you need before you head out on the road. Recently we went to Colorado and we've been traveling for a long time. And usually we'll check our list to make sure that we have everything that we need before we leave. But we didn't do that this time. We were all the way out in Kansas before we realized that we forgot our pour over, which I think is a cardinal sin.
A moment of silence for our pour over. We both had to hold the filters down to the top of our cups and carefully pour in the scalding hot water to avoid burning each other in order to make our coffee. And if you're familiar with our channel, you know that we may or may not love our coffee. So that was devastating. Yeah. We also forgot our fleece blanket,
which we realized that night when we were crawling into bed.
We were freezing.
And it was so cold.
And are you ready for this? So no fleece blanket in the cold, no coffee, also no toothpaste or deodorant. So nobody wanted to be our friends the whole week that we were in Colorado. We did go to the store and replace those things. We replaced the deodorant and the toothpaste.
Yeah, so we did have those. All that to say though, check your list or make a list if you don't have one. There's actually one on our website which might be really helpful for you. But make a list before you go and make sure to check it that you have everything because you don't want to be out in the middle of nowhere and have forgotten, especially those most critical items, the stuff that you can't easily replace at the store.
Mm-hmm. Specifically not in Lawrence, Kansas.
That's right.
Our packing list is in the description if you need one for your SUV camping adventure.
Yeah. Number 3, I'm a big proponent of packing the right stuff, and sometimes we can overpack.
That's you.
Sometimes we can overpack.
You gonna out me like that in front of all of our millions of followers?
Sorry.
Speaking of, subscribe to our channel if you would like to follow us. Just shameless plug.
Yeah, shameless plug.
When you're living out of an SUV, you obviously don't have a lot of space, and that space is really precious to your ability to function and have kind of a space that you feel comfortable in. And so you really don't want to end up with a bunch of stuff that you don't need. So we have kind of gotten it down to a science of what we can fit under the platform and what we take with us, which has been really nice to make sure that we're reining in some of those things that we just don't necessarily need.
And certainly some luxury items might be really, really nice, but are you actually gonna do yoga out on the beach so you need your yoga mat, or would a towel suffice?
That specifically feels like you're calling me out. BRB. No, I'm just kidding. The other thing for me is that when you're packing a lot of valuable items, at least specifically in my case, I have felt nervous about having those on the road and like worrying that something could happen to them or that we could have a break-in. We tend to, if we do travel with anything valuable because we're working from the road, we take that on our person with us. We don't leave anything valuable in the car. And so I think that that is something that's been really important to us, to pack minimally and also make sure that we only take the valuable items that we actually need. Number 4 is definitely one that we learned very much the hard way when we were in the middle of the desert in northern Arizona. If you've been there, you know that there is not a lot there, and the tire pressure warning comes on the car,
which is like the worst thing to see when you're like 70 miles from the nearest town.
From anything. From even, any town at all, not a big town. And it was like 108 degrees that day because it was in June in the desert.
Yeah, and people tell you to travel with water or have some snacks, but what they don't tell you is that you should probably have some tools in your car too.
When we finally made it to a gas station on a literal flat tire, we found a 4-inch screw that was jammed way into the tire, and we needed a way to be able to get it out in order to use one of those cheap little patch kits, which we don't recommend, but it was all we had to be able to get us to the next town. Phil went around to everybody at the gas station asking if they had tools, and nobody did. Since then, we have decided that we will not travel without any tools.
We asked for a Leatherman Wave. This is one of their flagship ones, but there's plenty of multi-tools. But honestly, having a small multi-tool packs such a punch and is just enough that you need to get out in a pinch. There's no reason really to carry a ton of tools or a ton of spare parts unless you're doing some extreme like off-roading or overlanding or something like that.
We are not.
No, we just need enough to get us down the road to a repair station if there's something larger going on. So a small tool set like this with a multi-tool is just all we need, and it packs down so light we just stick it in the console, and most of the time we don't need it unless of course we're opening up those bag salads that we're going to eat for lunch.
It does have a pair of scissors that I think are specifically meant for opening bag salads.
Yeah, I think so.
Can you tell Phil loves it?
I really like this thing. It's really handy. The next one is kind of one of those things that it's the pro side and the con side. One of the pros of SUV camping is, of course, you can be really flexible. One of the cons, though, is that sometimes you can get in the habit of not planning ahead. And that's definitely something that we have done in the past. And that
Have done?
Maybe
we do it all the time.
Maybe we do. Maybe this weekend we could have gone somewhere and we didn't.
Over the past year, we've gotten to do some really, really cool things. Like we did a whole tour of Oktoberfest from Cincinnati to Helen, Georgia, and Frankenmuth, Michigan. We even got to see the azaleas in Maine and then circled back to the Northeast for a beautiful fall foliage road trip. And those leaves are only in peak color for like 2 weeks of the entire year.
Yeah.
So being flexible and really planning some of our stops around what is a good time to travel to those places has allowed us to see some of the best things that these places have to offer.
Yeah, our trip up to the like New England area in fall was one of the most memorable things that I think I've ever done in my whole life. And just seeing how much Devin loved it made me love it even
awesome.
more. But it was interesting because, like she said, there's only a select window, and if you miss that, it really changes where you might want to go. For us, we decided to go up to upstate New York and Vermont, and by the time we were there, some of the colors in New Hampshire weren't quite as vibrant as they had been a week before.
Number 6, our mattress. This was a huge mistake that we made when we first started SUV camping that we really wish we could go back and redo, but you live and you learn.
We really tried to be inexpensive at first, and on this one, we kind of cheaped out.
Cheapskates.
What we did was buy those little like 1-inch foam mattresses from like any regular box store. And honestly, we ended up buying 3 or 4 of them just to try to make it comfortable, and it never was.
We kept buying more. We kept going and adding more, and we were like, these are only like $20 a piece, and we just kept adding more to the grand total, and it still was not getting any more comfortable.
We ended up spending like $75 on all of these mattresses, and then honestly, you also lose all of the benefits of how thin those are because it got super bulky to try to roll up or put in and out of the car.
And this was all because we didn't want to drop a higher price tag on a nice mattress initially, but we ended up spending nearly the same amount on that as we did on our Milliard trifold mattress. And we really wish we had just started, because when we upgraded to that, it made a world of difference in our sleep quality.
Yeah, honestly now sleeping in the RAV feels as comfortable as sleeping in our bed. And that is a really, really nice feeling. And it's one that we kind of look forward to camping every single time because it is so comfortable.
Yeah, it's just a 4-inch memory foam mattress. It folds up into 3. We did have to cut it with a box cutter to make it fit our specific situation, but it was our biggest gear item that we wish we would have just bought from the start. It's linked below in our description if you want to check it out. We highly recommend it because it's what we sleep on.
Yep.
All right, last but not least is something that just happened to us when we traveled to New Orleans just a couple of months ago, and that is that we got locked out of our campground.
Yeah, it was quite the surprise when we got there and the gate was locked, and we did not know the code because nobody told us.
Yeah, we'd actually stayed at this campground in the past, and I guess that time they had called us and given us the gate code. We didn't necessarily remember that being a part of it, but it had been so long that we just didn't think about it. This time, nobody did call us with the gate code, and we showed up after check-in hours, and we were just locked out, and there was nobody around. It was also pitch black outside. Obviously, there are like alligators and stuff, so our friend Phil, God bless this soul,
I ended up walking like a mile and a half trying to find anybody who was awake at the campground who might be willing to let some strange dude get the gate code, which ended up not even happening because they were like, who is this guy? Of course we're not gonna let him in.
People were definitely freaked out. A woman went back in her camper and she's like, I don't know this strange guy.
Yep.
I waited at the gate just in case somebody came who could let us in. A man was coming to the campground and he did let us in, and that was we were very grateful for him,
super
for
lucky.
sure. But we were outside, locked out of the state park for an hour and a half.
It was just a pain.
Yeah, we love that campground. No shade to them. It would have helped us to have like closely read the instructions. It was hidden a little bit, but I think that you just need to really double check that there is not a gate or a gate code that is needed if you decide to stay in a campground. So learn from our mistake.
Yeah.
Get your gate code.
Yeah. Most of the time they go ahead and give those to you, but you can be proactive. If you know that you're arriving after business hours, go ahead and call them and make sure that you have all the information you need for when you get there.
Yeah, that way you don't get eaten by an alligator.
Yeah.
Like Phil. No, I'm just kidding.
I know. Can you believe it?
Oh my gosh, that's stupid. So there you have it. Those are the top 7 mistakes we've made in our SUV camping journey. And we hope that you can learn from our experiences the easy way just by watching a YouTube video and not the hard way like us.
Yeah. Let us know what lessons you've learned the hard way down in the comments, and like this video if you like this kind of content.
And subscribe to our channel if you want to see where we're headed next.
Yep. We'll see you next time.
Bye. I strategically didn't show these when I showed my stuff that I was packing. Ew. Avert your eyes. That was a hairball. They're very warm and I need to make sure I'm warm. Let's bark.
We're gonna bark at you for a minute.
Ready?
Yep. Ben.